Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still tuned into Predator League Philippines 2026. Salvatore and Abyss still here joining the action for you guys. And we have some groundbreaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, the following two matches will be called by default. Therefore, WP Academy will move up to the ranks, scoring 2-0. And Life is Roblox will be going down 1-1. Meanwhile, Alpha Esports Phoenix versus Trilang will be defaulted as well, with Alpha Phoenix getting eliminated. So sad news is for our following matches, but we will be proceeding to MCOM Esports Club versus Ion Global Academy. What a long break. First and foremost, we would like to apologize for the technical difficulties issued. Rest assured that the rest of the day will be smooth as butter, and hopefully the games will be entertaining for you guys. And there it is, as the news has been broken out of this. I'm so surprised that you two, once we witnessed what was going to happen for the next few matches, I was shocked and awe, because for the most part, I'm quite surprised and at the same time sad for Alpha Esports.
Yeah, I'm also pretty sad as well to hear that 2 matches are defaulted. That's just unfortunate, but we can't really do much about that. That it is what it is, Salvatore. So unfortunate for Alpha Ember Phoenix, they are going to be eliminated, as you mentioned, because they are down 0-2, and those that end up being 0-2 will be eliminated from the match. But I do have good news for everyone here. We do still have one more match, as shown a while ago here in the schedule, is that we still have MCOM Esports Club versus Ion Global Academy. And of course, whoever wins in that will move on forward in the brackets or in the Swiss stage. However, whoever loses that, similar to Alpha Ember Phoenix, will be eliminated as well. So any of the teams that are 0-2 are just gone from the tournament. Unfortunate again for Alpha Ember Phoenix that they were defaulted out of the tournament, but we do still have one more game in store for you here, and I'm hoping you'll stick around for the entirety of it, because I'm sure it's going to be a thriller of a match once again.
Yeah, it's an absolute thriller, and I really can't wait to what's about to transpire, because Ion Global and MCOM Esports has been emerging through the scene for moreover than fresh 3 years now, and being able to match up against each other and building rosters left and right. We have now formulated into a storyline where these are former outlaws of their former rosters now shifted into players right now that have molded into what's essentially a strong roster for them respectively. But more than that, I'm really sad for Alpha Phoenix here, because once they were champions of Campus Rivals, so that's a guaranteed invite here to Predator League Philippines League of Legends. But right now, with some personal issues, they've been eliminated in a snap, just like that. They've been Thanos snapped out of the conversation here of a possible grand finals finish. But c'est la vie. That's so be it here for Alpha Ember Phoenix, as Trilang will now be advancing towards the next bracket. So now we are having a quick day of action for you guys as we head towards the main event, which is MCOM versus Ion Global, which I still do think is still a tough competition here. It's really tough to point out here, Keenan, who's going to be the clear winner, because you essentially have two teams that faced tough losses yesterday. So right now, in trying to build up some even more moral compass, and as well as some ground to stand on in this competition, Ion and MCOM being faced on a corner might be giving us some really good League of Legends.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we are going to be, and I'm sure we are going to be seeing some good League of Legends. And as we mentioned a while ago, this is a do or die situation for both teams. They're down 0-1 in this Swiss stage, and they need to win this game. Either of them needs to win this game, this best of one, in order to move on forward in this bracket. And that's just a tough situation here. We're talking about stressful situations a while ago for Capybara versus Fervent Esports. Now it's even more stressful, because if you lose this, you're out. And that's just a tough spot for them. Of course, the 1-1 teams will be moving forward in the Swiss stage against each other, whereas the 2-0 teams will be fighting off against each other, which means that Capybara will be against West Point Esports Academy as well in the next day of the Swiss stage, whereas the 1-1 teams, which in this case is, I believe, Fervent Esports and of course Life is Roblox. They're the two teams that will be facing off against each other in the 1-1. But of course, we still have the 1-1 here, between Ion Esports Academy versus Ion Global Academy versus MCOM Esports Club, and I'm looking forward to this game as well, because do or die here, Salvatore.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised with the for this year's iteration of Predator League 2026 because we were so accustomed to the group stages. It's kind of like streamlined already, but for Swiss, it's much more even deadly now, and you have the greater chance of facing off against another Titan as well if you are competing as to getting that sort of storyline for yourself that you are one of the strongest teams. You might be able to face one of your adversaries here, which is a good storyline to build here in Predator League Philippines, especially if you're aiming for the grand finals. A very good tune-up game to your fellow stronger countrymen could be really good as a sort of practice. But right now, let's shift our direction to building up what's a really good matchup between MCOM and Iron Global, which I do think with their off-season roster moves is putting them in a pretty good spot. So Iron Global Academy claiming the talent of Rocket here, essentially the Zoe main of the League of Legends Philippines server. I'm so excited for what's about to come. Is MCOM gonna challenge the Zoe, or is it going to be MCOM just laying it out on the line, knowing that it's going to be tough, so we might just be able to ban that? So yeah, it's not just an ordinary matchup, Keenan. It's a really, really good story-based sort of duo between MCOM and Iron Global, two emerging organizations here in League PH.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I mean, there's notable players, notable teams, and you gotta be wary of the fact that comfort picks, sometimes they triumph over the meta, right? And I think that's something that they will have to be wary about on both sides, really. MCOM Esports Club and Iron Global Academy need to be wary of each other's comfort picks as well, going into the pick and ban phase as well. So I'm looking forward to what these two teams have in store for us, because so far we've been seeing a lot of the quote-unquote meta picks that the Philippine scene has been doing recently. Of course, and we only watched one best of one here today, but we got to see the J4 being banned. We got to see the Kaisa Nico being picked. So a lot of meta is still evident when it comes to the pick and ban phase. But of course, as you mentioned, right, Zoe one tricks, what other one tricks do we have here between these two teams? It's definitely creating an opening for us to see a more interesting or a more unique ban and picking phase when we get into that draft phase later down the line before the game starts. So of course, I'm looking forward to what we get to see. As someone that likes to pride himself in drafting, I am so excited to be flabbergasted by something that I would not even expect or dream of in terms of drafting.
Hopefully something unique, because I really do not want the same iteration of drafts for different teams. They kind of share like the same mentality of prioritizing one of the meta picks right now, which is arguably Kaisa and Sai for the bottom side, or Oriana in the mid. And that's something I'm already accustomed to even way back in Campus Rivals. But right now, with months passing by, it's still the same old. So something to challenge between both MCOM and Iron Global is entertain the audience, entertain via a different comp, something out of the ordinary, something left field, kind of what the Kindred did a while ago for Fervent Esports, because that was way out of the ordinary. That was so different from what we are accustomed to. Probably a Graves or even a Zinsha could have been even better, but Kindred is something that was so out. It kind of felt like it was supposed to be good, but in turn it didn't. But something that could put this competition into good use is that you essentially are so good, you might be able to draft something that's not out of the meta, but still ended up winning. So now, let us engage with the comments, Kino. What will the audience would like to say about the competition? Said here by Lawrence Lazaro, let's go Ion. So we already have fanboys here in the comments, so let us know, who are you rooting for to win this all between MCOM versus Iron Global? So far, 1-0 already. We have one fanboy in the comments.
Yep, I mean, show your support, guys. If you're cheering for MCOM Esports Club, type down hashtag MCE win. Or if you're cheering for Ion Global Academy, type down hashtag Ion win in the comments. Of course, we'll be, showcasing your comments possibly here and there, and mentioning you guys. So, of course, once again, it is going to be the last game of the day. And I'm looking forward to the two teams. Speaking of teams, I think we can do a little bit of an introduction for some of them as well.
Yeah, let's take a look at their team profiles, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to see if they are really prepared, or are they really the ones that we are expecting. So yeah, it's feeling like MCOM Esports will be still playing their usual players here from like yesterday. So you're seeing some familiar names here, especially from Krez and Rupert, who are former teammates of the team Godsend Esports, and they will be reuniting here at MCOM. You have Shogun, one of the primary mid laners, used to be a mid laner, but right now shifted towards being a bot laner, and that's a good transition. I feel like Shogun has been emerging into the scene as one of the best ADCs, and he has been delivering that sort of action for moreover a half of a decade right now. So I think that move was so smart because Shogun has now been immersed into a conversation of being an ADC player instead of being a Zed main.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting shift for Shogun. Like, it's not a natural shift from mid lane, a solo lane, into a duo lane, right? That is bot lane. So it's definitely going to be interesting how they try to shift their playstyle or adjust themselves, especially with the fact that you mentioned now they have two veteran players on their team as well, in that being Kreza and Rupert. And I'm happy to see that they've stuck together actually as well. So that's a little bit of team camaraderie. But you know, speaking of MCOM Esports Club, we of course can't forget their competitors here in this best of one, Ion Global Academy. Let's take a look at their team profile as well.
Yeah, take a look at Ion Global Academy, and I feel like it will still be the same old as well from yesterday. And the Ion Global Academy, I feel like them competing in other tournaments as well has given them a better picture of what they are capable of. I feel like Ion Global Academy is always consistent top 8, and they've never shied away from competing towards the playoffs. But recently, they've been having some form of a setbacks. But right now, something different right now is Predator League 2026 has been given them an opportunity of a lifetime to try and change that story, you know, try to get that grand final spot. Hopefully 2026 is their year. So yeah, I kind of like this matchup because MCOM Esports has been establishing as like the much more favorable team compared to Ion Global. But for Ion Global, this might just be their time and year to just not be able to just finish top 8, but finish at the grand final spot of number 1. Being able to boast yourself as a grand finals winner, you know, being the champion of it all, it is no ordinary battleground. This is like Predator League, for goodness sake. This is still something that you should be proud of, and Ion Global is aiming for that title.
I am sure that they're looking to get that title spot here. Now, the 100,000 champion pool prize actually is going to be a big factor for them. And of course, the glory of winning it out. But now that we're here, you know, we are going to be going into the pick and ban phase. I'm looking forward to see what they have in store for us. And right off the bat, it will be MCOM banning out the Naafiri. They're already targeting the junglers here, it seems, whereas on the side of Ion, they get rid of the Rumble. So it feels like they're targeting specific lanes here, Salvatore, and I'm not surprised because I'm pretty sure they are familiar with certain players on each of the teams.
Yeah. So we're now heading in towards the second iteration of the bans here. So far, Morgana has been on the consistent banning list here for not just one team, but for the rest. I feel like there was a handful of as well yesterday, but right now, MCOM Esports has been continuing the trend of banning out Morgana. I feel like the recent adjustments to the mid lane items and as well as to the mages themselves has opened up an opportunity for Morgana to be back into the mid lane, probably as well as in the support role. So Ion Global has now banned out two of the top lane champions that has been delivering the business here in the current meta. So Rumble and Ambess has been sharing the top rate pick in playing the top lane. So I'm not surprised on that one for Ion Global, but their abundance of banning on the top side opens up so much in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think there's a lot open right now for the mid laners, the ADCs as well, I will say, the supports as well. But already, I'm thinking, based on these bans, they're already trying to somewhat isolate certain roles and try to prioritize certain champs as well. The Orianna being banned out as well. They're leaving out some big name champions. Azir still open, Yunara still open, Sivir. There's a lot of big names here in terms of the champion pool. They could even pull out the Saya Rakan if they really want to on the side of Ion. Right? Since they are going to be on red side, they can pick the Sion Recon and the 1-2 for Ion Global Academy. But of course, this is up to how they want to play it out. With the Jarvan being banned out as well, it leaves open a lot of immobile champs for the side of Ion Global Academy.
A lot of mid laners. Jars really favors the Lucian or even the Draven, so I'm not going to be surprised here for MCOM if they will be likely to prioritize that. But for Ion, they have a whole set of supports here that could really counter that Lucian Nami bot lane potentially here for MCOM Esports. Nico flexible on the mid and as well as the support, so this is mind games already being played out here by MCOM. Ion probably a very good pick right now is a Nautilus or even a Rel. Prioritize that support lane already, because whatever MCOM Esports is already building with that Nico is just priming themselves for a chance to build a much more engaged heavy comp like what Atiba from the Fervent Esports opponent did a while ago. So being able to try to emulate what Capybara did is most likely what's going to happen here for MCOM. So now with a denial of the Orianna ban, they've now focused themselves into a Nocturne, but not really sure on what's good to pair with a Nocturne jungle here. Probably an Azir mid lane here for Ion.
They can pick up the Azir mid lane, admittedly, or they can go for a Galio or Talia. I'm actually looking at those two picks mainly here, especially against a Nico. I think the Galio value is very high. However, Ahri will be the one to be picked up instead. I think Ahri Nocturne isn't a bad combination. Your main concern is just your engage and your front line that might be a bit weak. So they may need to pick an interesting top side. While on the side of MCE, they are going to be going for the Wukong. Probably Wukong and AP mid laner, which it will be Sylas. Now, I expect Ion Global Academy to actually go for a possible Karma pick. This doesn't look like a bad Karma game. It has to be. But, of course, anything can happen. Anything can go. They can prioritize their ADC, but I do think their support needs to be picked here right off the bat, or their top laner.
If not the Karma, I think Emilio is a good disengaged support. If they're favoring so much of the airbornes, the snares, and as well as the stuns of MCOM Esports, then Emilio is not far from the truth here for Ion Global. And there goes the Rel, as we said there, Keenan, a while ago. If they built a Rel or if they built a comp centered around being engaged because they've already primed the Nico, once they built around the Wukong as well as the Sylas, it has to be a bell here for the ears of Ion to just get that Rel. It just offers so much skirmish in the level 2s. The bush control is so good, and the amount of denials of shields here for MCOM could be so huge here for Ion Global. So now MCOM needs to play this out smartly, probably ban out a formidable top lane, probably an Aatrox or a Jax.
Should be a Kai'Sa ban.
Ion Global, they're just going in for the bottom side here to counteract the ADC already here because they picked Nico. I feel like I'm not gonna blame Ion if they're gonna go double ban on the ADCs, because I think it's the much favorable decision here for Ion.
I'm actually surprised Ion banned Kai'Sa though, because they do have first phase pick or in the second phase. They have first pick on second phase, and Kai'Sa would fit their matchup pretty decently. So I expected MCE to ban out Kai'Sa, but instead Ion bans it out. So respectively, MCE are going to be targeting ADCs as well. So this limits the pool quite a bit, and I'm sure Ion will immediately pick up the first ADC that's powerful in their matchup. And the Yunara, as we mentioned a while ago, is still very much open, and I'm sure Ion will want to prioritize something that meshes well with the rest of their composition. So they're most likely going to be not dropping their top laner per se, but they're going to prioritize their ADC in this second phase as the first pick, most likely here, to counteract any counter bans. And again, the Varus being banned out limits the champion pool a whole lot.
Yeah, but Jar still has the Draven and Delusion for him. For MCOM Esports, I feel like a good ADC ban once more here could limit the potential here of Ion Global. Probably much more on the Caitlyn side of things. Probably that would be even better here for MCOM, but they're going into the top lane, banning out Ornn. So Ion Global just needs another more of an engaged top laner that could really put themselves in a very good spot. So the second priority, if not the Kai'Sa, it's going to be the Saya here. So the Saya Rel now on the ball lane already formed here by Ion Global. So that speaks a lot of engage in the level 2 fights. You have Blade Caller, you have Crash Down. That's so good of an engage to actually pressure down the bottom side. And as we've seen a while ago from the matchup of Capybara and as well as Fervent, you have that sort of matchup that it's so engage reliant that the bot lane has been doing most of the work in trying to set up most of the fights. So Sivir locked in here for MCOM Esports. I feel like this is now an MCOM Esports that is supposed to go engage, but because of the nature of what they have in their opponents, they have to go passive right now in their early game to play that snowball.
Oh, I like this Renekton pick, by the way. They ban out Ornn, by the way, because they have Sylas Nico, so it makes a lot of sense they ban out Ornn, and they need to leave as many ADCs open as possible because they don't have the first pick. And I'm looking at it now, Ion, they cannot go for Galio anymore. They can't go Galio top against Renekton. That's way too risky. So they need to pick something else. It could be a Gwen pick, possibly speaking, but Gwen isn't as strong anymore. So Jax is another pick that can be potentially against Renekton. The main concern is your main AP damage is now coming out from the Ahri, so you're running a double AD top side. I do think that the Saya pick is very much strong here. You're against Silas Wukong. You need a form of disengage. You need a form of counter engage. And so the Saya pickup is very strong. My opinion, bot side of Ion, much stronger than bot side of MCE, but top side of MCE looks stronger than Ion's top side. That is what I personally think, especially when you're running Wukong Silas. It's really hard to actually get counteracted, especially with the paranoia of Nocturne. Not going to be very useful here against the Wukong, in my opinion. So they need to make sure they target that Sivir. But the moment Sivir gets caught, Ion has a lot of capabilities here to turn the fight around.
And there's an absolute point there to be made, especially from MCOM Esports that is so reliant on their chemistry. Individually, it doesn't have to work. So you have Sivir, so you have that sort of a narrative that you have to work for yourself before you do gain that strength. Yes, you will build items, you will be able to get that BF sort to get that early game spike. But the thing is, MCOM Esports still is questionable in terms of how much execute power can they lash out towards that 5v5. But for Iron Global, you have Saya individually can play out perfectly, but in order to get the much more of that value, you have to pair it up with also an engaged mid laner, probably here with Donari, and that's a good sign actually. So you have so much peeling here from Iron Global that there is no one of a threat here for Ion. So MCOM Esports, I feel like it's such a mix that they have to rely on team chemistry in order to get that play intact. For Iron Global, I feel like they could just play around themselves as well, to just not rely on roams or just play around the skirmish game really fairly, and that would be good for Iron Global. So if your narrative is towards Iron Global, I'm trying to go on the direction of MCOM Esports because the comp just speaks to me that we are going in for the dives, we're going in for the aggressions, and MCOM Esports will most likely try and bank on that statement during the fights where Dragon will spawn in a few minutes. So that's a good sign here for MCOM.
I think it's hard for me to make a prediction here because I like certain sides of both comps. So I see you're leaning towards MCOM here. I'm actually not sure if I can lean towards either team, but of course at the end I do have to pick a team eventually, right? I do think once again that the composition of Ion's bot side is stronger. However, MCE's top side is definitely stronger, and in this case, you need the top side to peel for the Sivir. And if Sivir can get peeled the whole time, it's going to be impossible to stop. They have Nocturne, Rel, Jax. That is a decent comp to jump on a Sivir. However, Counter-Strike can be spell shielded. The Unspeakable Horror can be shielded as well, which is the fear of Nocturne. So when I look at it, I think Iron Global Academy's composition is harder to pull off. It heavily relies on Saya being the main playmaker, whereas on the side of MCE, Wukong, Silas, Nico, Renekton, Sivir, all of them can be a playmaker in this team fight, in their team fights. So I do think the bot side of Ion's better, but overall, I think I have to favor MCOM as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my vote here as well as onto MCOM because MCOM's comp really brings out the best in their individual play styles, and I feel like the chemistry will most likely cook towards dragon fights and as well as 5v5 skirmishes. I'm waiting for that spot. It's supposed to be a snowball comp. It used to be an engaged one where it relies on aggression, but with the nature now of their opponents, they just retracted their statement, just pointed out that we would just want to scale. We don't want to risk ourselves in getting a really bad early to mid game, and that transition is really bad. It's really tough to go from a bad early game to a good mid game with the current meta where everything is so punishable, where everything could be heavily favored towards the early game once you get the first dragon, and it's so tough to build a rapport during the mid to late game where you have to now climb back to the ranks because your opponent just has better items. MCOM Esports just speaks to me that we will most likely be passive. Iron Global is now going to be challenged whether they would be patient or disciplined in getting those fights, or will they just try to go aggressive right now and stop down the MCOM Esports hype train. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about you guys? In the comments, what about you, the fans, the audience, our dear supporters? What are your thoughts about the matchup of MCOM versus Iron Global? Predictions, let us know in the comments. We might be able to showcase you guys our community comments later on. You might get featured here in this broadcast. First and foremost, thank you. We've been blessed by this opportunity, and you guys have been there for the support from the first second up until this moment. You have been staying with us to witness the action that is Predator League Philippines League of Legends. Legends, and for the most part, it's not even far from over. We still have a 1 weekend of pure action, and as well as a semifinals bout way up in the corner. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Predator League Philippines.
Yep, and once again, if you're cheering for MCOM Esports Club, type down hashtag MCE win in the comments, or if you're cheering for Ion Global Academy, put down hashtag Ion win. And of course, before we head on over towards the game, once again, a big thanks, a big showcase as well to some of the products that we have here. It's presented to you, such as the Helios 18. Step up, stand out, and be ready for anything with Helios 18. Shop now at Acer Predator Online Shop, Acer Predator Shopee, Acer Predator Lazada, or at any resellers near you. Salvatore, I am looking forward to this game because we have a lot in store for us, but we're finally going to be going in-game here in Summoner's Rift between MCOM Esports Club versus Ion Global Academy. Do you have any say in, or do you have any, besides the prediction, of course, of MCOM, do you have any ideas as to how this game will go?
It most likely is going to be really quiet during the early phases. You know, these people are hyper focused on trying to get as much resources as possible before they do force those skirmishes, especially on the Void Grubs, which is quite important because you have one ADC that could do the side lane, and same goes for Ion Global, but instead of an ADC, you have the top lane that really focuses on taking down towers and applying those pressures to make sure it's a 1v2 or even a 1v3 at best case scenario. So Bunny Uni is going to be the law of attraction here for MCOM Esports to try and deny to get that Void Grubs take, just so in turn that Bunny Uni will not be focused on taking down the side lanes and be team fight centric most likely. So that's a good contrast here, Keenan, because MCE, it still feels to me that they are supposed to be passive in this one, but surprise me, MCOM Esports, surprise me.
I am definitely up for any surprises that may be in store for us. Looking at the matchup already, I do think it's easier for Sad Bad Mad Lad to have this mid lane in control versus Shogun. Silas has a bit of a struggle versus Ari in the mid lane due to the fact that Ari just outranges him in every single aspect, including the poke. So it's really up to how they can actually push out and farm for Shogun. Well, on the side of the bot lane, I do think it's actually easier for the side of Jars and Rupert to take lane control, simply because Jars has way more wave clear early into the game. So I think ADC and Psycho might struggle here a little bit on the bot side.
And speaking of, I might just be able to retract my statement that Shogun is playing for the best ADC currently, because he's now going back into his muy normal for him, because going to the mid lane here, Jars will be stepping up to the ADC, which is still his natural role, but for the most part, Shogun has been notoriously known for playing the ADC role for less than 2 years now. So seeing him now in a new role is a breath of fresh air for MCOM Esports here. But now Ion Global, with an early engage.
Yep, the crash gun going forward. Psycho, the heal will be committed as well from the bot side of Ion Global Academy, but the Blade Recaller from the Jars. Jars is down to low HP. He does activate the flash. A barrier as well to be utilized. Shattering Strike does not land, but of course, we still have Rupert in the front lines trying to dish out some damage. ADC needs to be a bit careful, but the flash on forward gets forced as well for the side of MCOM. And now Summoners have been burned across the board, but ADC somehow, with the Blade Caller, catches out Rupert. And Kreze needs to be careful. The Horror getting the fear onto Kreze. We'll need to back away. Shattering Strike doesn't land once again, but I think Rupert did not realize the feathers behind him here, Salvatore.
And take a look at that priming of level 2 by ADC and Psycho. 1 minion away from getting level 2, and the flash Shattering Strike was so good that we were not prepared for what's about to happen there, Keenan. That bottom side was so anticlimactic, it kind of felt like they were about to escape both Rupert and Jars, but because the lack of presence of mind from the feathers there, it kind of paved the way for Ion Global to get the early gold lead. And that's so huge because a player of a caliber like ADC is destined to have that BF Sword or even the Guardian's Axe priming for that Essence Reaver. And once he gets that item, as you can see, it kind of puts him in a very good spot because you are now open for trades and not so much to disengage the fight, because side players usually just go around and move forward and not go for disengage fights. They're most likely abuse their item advantage and just try to punish to lessen the gold income of their opponents.
I do gotta agree, and we're already seeing how ADC and Psycho, despite struggling in the early lane simply because Sivir outpushes, they do have the stronger matchup. They do have the stronger 2v2, especially if ADC gets that Blade Caller on to any of them. So Jars and Rupert, they need to be very careful because it's really hard to spell shield all of the abilities of the Rel, who, speaking of Rel, does engage once again, doesn't get the Blade route onto Jars. However, ADC needs to back away, and there again, we're seeing the bounces of Jars dishing out so much damage on the Psyche. He needs to be careful. They'll still have the refillable pot, but I'm not sure if he's going to be looking to re-engage here.
Yeah, Psycho is that proactive of a man, just trying to go for the crash down engages, which is so good. And there's nothing really much to call out here, Keenan, because the game has been really passive except for the bottom side here. There's trades left and right, but I feel like it's just establishing lane prio here because objectives will be spawning later and soon. Here comes an engage. Oh!
Ooh, Bunny Unni was really just trying to get some damage out. But Renekton is favored in this matchup, generally speaking, because the counter-strike doesn't really block the Q. And the Dominus actually gets activated. Nuguri is actually going for the dive, and he gets it! With the kill in a solo bolo on the top side. Bunny Unni gets taken down, and no TP also available. Gonna be losing a full wave on the top side. That's a 1 versus 1 in favor of Nuguri. And that's a beautiful way to utilize that Renekton.
Man, that auto attack was already buffered before the flash of Bunny Uni, so that's a guaranteed attack. And much like what Psycho did a while ago in priming his level, Nuguri did use the numbers there to just gain some advantage and getting that dominance, and that dominance extra health tanked a lot of tower damage actually, and even the AoE was so huge that Bunny Uni didn't even react accordingly. So now, because of this, Iron Global now has Prio on the bottom side.
Oh, Psycho needs to be careful. Crash down onto the Tribush. However, Crescent diving on forward needs to be careful of the fear. However, Shogun's coming up over with the Spirit Rush, looking for the Charm. Will be able to get, not the Charm, sorry, he's a Silas. But Shogun with the Respo was able to get the kill. The stolen Spirit Rush able to re-engage. And with that, suddenly it is a mid-prio, not a mid-prio, but a prio for the Dragon for the side of MCOM that should have been Iron Global Esports.
Yeah, it's kind of odd that the bot side of Iron Global didn't call for the recall. Mad Lad in trouble.
Oh, needs to be careful. This Silas does a lot of damage, honestly. And despite it, again, being somewhat favored for the Ahri, it shows that Shogun is really good at utilizing enemy ultimates. And it is favorable in team fights for Shogun to actually steal that Spirit Rush. And I think that's why, despite it being favored in lane for Ahri, in team fights, this Silas will be much stronger. Hence why I favor the top side of MCE.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Iron Global has been facing a tough spot whether they would be aware if they should recall or not, because I feel like they should have given the Dragon, because I feel like you preserving the items and the momentum that you have, you dying really does kill the momentum off of the Iron Global bot lane. So MCOM Esports, because of that, because of what they reacted to, it kind of felt like they just negated the strength of the Desire right now. So now the lane swap is now being called in here. So there's going to be a teleport way up here by Mad Lad later on, the moment that the Void Grub spawn. And that's a good sign. So they're now establishing this point already that Shogun will be having a hard time garnering that gold. And that tower plate is so close to being demolished. So that's a huge value here for Iron Global. MCOM Esports, despite having the advantage, they might not be able to cover up the macros on the map perfectly. But at the same time, you have MCOM Esports as just waiting on the team fight.
Yeah, they're actually setting up for the grubs here at the moment. In fact, Shogun and Rupert are towards the mid lane. ADC needs to be a tad bit careful. Tangle Bombs comes on forward, but the Paranoia is there. It will be Shogun going to be feared, possibly, but no, he's able to get away. Shane's back on forward. It's Sun having to flash away. Paranoia is stolen this time from Shogun. Does activate it, looking for the re-engage. Going for the kill on the Sun. So now the Nocturne is now down, but Shogun may end up falling as well. Flash from ADC is able to get the kill. It will be the Cyclone being utilized. Cyclone ends up falling as well. Jar's able to get the kill. And with that, it's down to Sad Bad Mad Lad and ADC in the 2 versus 3, but it looks like they're going to be moving away for MCE, and it will be grub started from Nuguri, and looks like they are going to be collecting it for MCE. That's going to be 2 objectives now for the side of MCOM.
Yeah, no Paranoia here for Sun, so there's an absolute no contest here for Iron Global. MCOM Esports will be taking this likely, as there's still a good amount of pressure here for the bot lane and as well as the top lane of Iron Global. So they denied the next 2 takes here of Void Grubs, despite Sun being late to the party. I think this is going to be a fight still.
Oh, they're looking for the engage. It's gonna be a counter strike from Bunny Oni. Needs to be careful. Will he be able to activate the Grandmaster at arms? However, it's gonna be re-engaged. Shogun looking for the kill. Able to get the Kingslayer onto Bunny Oni. Jar's able to collect the kill onto the Jax. And with that, Kreze also finds Psycho. And they tried to contest the Grubs, but they're already in the downside. They don't have prio. They're unable to respo in time. So they end up sacrificing so much. And if you look at the compositions, the team fight of MCE, again, their top side is just too strong. They need to rely on ADC to make these kills, to make these picks, but he's just not there yet.
Yeah, it's tough to call there for Iron Global, but at the same time, you gotta admire the courage that they have in order to contest that Void Grubs, despite the risk being taken there, because Sun didn't have Paranoia, or not even anyone here had the ultimate there to just try to disengage the fight, or even just chunk down a player there from MCOM Esports. Yes, there was Featherstorm, but I'm pretty sure ADC is not gonna waste that out just to get some Void Grubs. I feel like it's still a perfect moment there for Iron Global to still stay passive. Yeah, MCOM Esports is just knocking on doors right now, try to get those contests in the 3v3s or even the 5v5. That's a good sign here for MCOM Esports. They do have a significant goalie right now, which pushes players like Nuguri and Jars to the limit in terms of just building their items. So this is a good comp already being thrown out here by MCOM Esports. Their composition, and as well as just trying to keep it safe sort of mentality, is looking pretty good right now.
Yep, and Rupert just trying to be a nuisance to Sad Bad Mad Lad, just trying to be annoying, partnering up with Jars here on the bot side, and they're putting a lot of pressure here onto the mid laner that is Sad Bad Mad Lad. He's gonna struggle a little bit in this 2 versus 1 situation, so Psycho will need to be rotating on forward. They need to be careful because the Spirit Rush is actually available, and they're looking for the engage. He's looking for the flash charm. Gets the pullback, but the Cyclone is there. Kreze able to get the response. It will be the Featherstorm being utilized as well. The Pop Blossom is able to land as well. ADC falling down low. It will be the TP as well. Shogun able to find the engage. Kreze getting a kill on the Psycho, and ADC falls. Jars with the double kill, and now it's sent to a 4K gold lead, and that should be a lot of plates for the ADC of MCE.
Less disengages here for Iron Global. They want the smoke, but MCE is just giving too much, and Iron cannot breathe. What a beautiful engage there from Rupert, trying to deny the aggression there from Malin and both ADC. Yes, good Spirit Rush and an even better Featherstorm, but Rupert, being so proactive despite the low HP, was able to garner so much strength that the follow-up was so good for MCOM Esports. Take a look at this replay, Keaton. He's essentially saw the engage here for the Featherstorm and as well as the Spirit Rush, but it was so mitigated by the Pop Blossom. Nothing, absolutely nothing ADC could possibly done there to try and chunk down some HP bars because he was so CC chained. Iron Global's damage outputs, which was essentially strong in the early game, cannot be felt during the 11-minute mark.
I gotta say, I think huge props to Rupert and Kreze. Kreze was actually playing for the counter gang. He was hiding in the bush. They didn't actually realize the Wukong wasn't doing a clear. Rather, he was looking to counter engage. And the combination of the Nico Wukong is just too deadly to go into a team fight with. Of course, now with the Drake being up, they no longer have that Pop Blossom and Cyclone available, but they can still look to invade or play it for this prio. And in fact, Nuguri needs to be careful. He's getting pinged out. He's aware that they are actually looking for the engage. Dominance to be activated. Paranoia as well. He's going to try and survive the fear. Possibly to be activated as well. I think he ends up getting shut down, as it will be Bunny Oni collecting the kill. That's a lot of gold for the Jax here on the top side.
At the cost of like taking tower plates here in the mid side. Yes, Iron Global is getting those picks, but there's so much punishment here for MCOM Esports that they got one plate and as well as a dragon. So this is now a dragon empowered MCOM Esports that is most likely to take any team fight of the day. Mad Lad now trying to force the Spirit Rush just to get that escape, and that's one ulti down here for Iron Global, but there is no major objective up here, Keenan. So MCOM Esports has total control of the map. Take a look at the deep angles that they are taking right now. Enemy jungle on the Wolves side, and as well as the composition here for Jars, that there's nothing that Iron Global can do because I have mana barrier and on the hunt to act as an escape. So MCOM Esports is that confident right now to just lay it all on the line, and for Iron Global, they're being challenged.
They are being challenged. It's really difficult right now. This Sivir's already 1.5 items in, looking to build into that possible IE, I believe, but yeah, I imagine it's the Yuntal IE build for the Sivir, and that's gonna be very dangerous to run into. 5-0-3, 550 gold shutdown for that Sivir that is Jars. So gonna be a big target here. Sun and Sad Bad Mad Lad need to make sure that they target this Sivir as fast as possible. But I mentioned this a while ago, the peel that MCOM have is just too much. They have a Renekton, Wukong, Sylas, even a Nico. They provide too much space for that Sivir, so it's going to be very difficult to properly engage this. Speaking of engage, it's Shogun actually.
1v1.
Yep, Charm. Looking for the 1v1. Shogun misses the chains. However, he's looking for the Hextech Proto Belt, looking for the engage, but no. He'll just be running away. Sad, bad, mad lad. Able to stay away from the 1 versus 1. I don't think he wants to engage that here, Salvatore.
Yeah, it's still both one items here. So Shogun and Mad Lad is going to be a 50-50 still. So it's just going to depend on which abilities do land. It's going to be huge free damage
Truly.
there if the charm does hit. But at the same time, there's so much sustain on the Kingslayer, so there should be an ample amount of respect here for Mad Lad. Now, I think there's still some emphasis on the top side here that Bunny Uni is going to be the one that does the damage.
Dominus. Nuguri looking for the kill. However, needs to be careful. Bunny Uni is actually dealing a lot of damage, but forces the flash. Nuguri still has the Dominus available, but the Paranoid comes out. It's going to be running out, however. Looking for the fear. He's going to go looking for the dash away. The flash on forward from Sun is just enough to get the kill. And with that, that's a beautiful pick coming out from the Nocturne on the top side. However, they're looking for the mid-engage towards that mid-tier 1 turret. Blade Caller doesn't get the root. However, this should be a turret for the side of MCE. Every time Nuguri falls, it's MCE taking an objective. I'm noticing that right now.
It's the second time that it happened, Keenan. So it's fairly obvious here for Iron Global that picks are not that necessarily huge right now. You just have to pressure the side lanes really good, enough for MCOM Esports to just not be able to take those objectives. There's no countermeasures, there's no counterattacks. Iron Global is giving free objectives out for MCOM Esports. It's like Iron Global is drawing up a play for MCOM instead of themselves. So MCOM is just capitalizing on those punishments, which is huge. So what is now catapulting for Iron Global, knowing that they're getting the sum of gold here for Nuguri, plus 300, plus 300. Compare that to the 4K gold, it's almost 5K here for MCE.
Yeah, it's just looking too difficult right now for Iron Global Academy. They are not getting the picks that they need. They're focusing too much of this on this Renekton that they're missing the key factor that it's actually this Sivir that's the biggest problem for them later down in the team fights. And so far, Jars has been doing a phenomenal job just shoving out lanes, playing for this priority here in these different lanes. And so far, it's been working out. However, Ion, they're going to be looking to go towards the top side. Shogun needs to be careful. Does have the Hextech Proto Belt, however, but that is going to be an objective bounty for the side of Ion. At the very least, they do collect some gold, but oh, sad bad Madland needs to be careful. Pop Blossom activated. However, the Flash Spirit Rush is going to be utilized. We'll be able to back away, but that's an Ari without Flash and Ultimate now down. So yes, Pop Blossom was committed, but now you don't have any defensive capabilities, and the TP is going to be utilized. Rift Herald is going to be activated on the bot side. They're looking for this tier 2. However, it will be Psycho with the TP down towards the bot side. They're looking for the tier 2. However, I think they will be able to clear out this Rift Herald. They're going to be backing away on the side of MCE.
That's an anticlimactic Rift Herald spawn here for MCOM Esports, not diverging the attention here, probably set on the mid lane. If ever they just applied pressure on the bottom side wave, they would have had a 3 Rift Herald push over to the mid side, and you have 2-for-1 values there. A very low down bottom side tower and even low down mid side. So MCOM Esports not really prioritizing that flexibility of the Rift Herald, but then again, they still do have the pressure on the bottom side, which is fairly good. So I feel like MCOM is just trying to put some conversation here, conservation rather, that they want this mid tower alive so that they have still amount of control here on the mid side and not go to the inhibitor tower, so denying some form of gold there for Iron Global. So Dragon will be spawning in a few minutes. Iron Global needs to be prepared for this one. They're still not closing on their second items, comparing it to MCOM Esports that is most likely building on their second one. So here comes the Dragon, spawned already here in favor of Ion because they do have the high ground. Not really much presence for Shogun, but he does have the teleport. Under 6k HP is the Dragon.
Yep, they're looking for this free Drake, I believe. I don't think they're going to be looking to contest this. However, it's crazy. Trying to look for the steal, but no. Unable to get it. It will be the engaged. Cyclone to be utilized. Paranoid going to be coming out as well. Pop Blossom onto 3! It will be the Cyclone once again for the re-engaged. Paranoid going to be utilized onto Rupert. Rupert falling down low, but the Dominus, the Renekton, and the forward ground. Paranoid this time to be activated from Shogun. Stolen away. However, it will be Rupert taken down. It's going to be a 1-0 here in favor of Ion. They take the Drake, they get a kill, and that's exactly the pick they needed.
Ding ding, alarm clock here for Iron Global. That's so good. because them being so front of the map and as well as the map advantage because of them being red side, I feel like their confidence just jump shifted towards the moon because them being able to be proactive and try to gain that confidence and getting that dragon was so good. Despite Rupert getting the huge pop blossom, it was so mitigated because Psycho and ADC had the better positioning. So Iron Global now reading off the room that it's far from over. Despite the huge gold lead here for MCOM Esports, Iron Global still can fight, and now their carries are closing into their second items, evening things up here for MCOM Esports.
I think they really shouldn't have fought this. Something I noticed, Sivir still didn't have the IE. And remember what I said in the draft? ADC is the main playmaker of Ion. If they are unable to get the kill into ADC, and if Sivir is not stronger than ADC, which in this case she wasn't, they can't fight it. And that's why Jars was trying to farm, needed that IE before they can look for the team fight. So Jars prioritizes this item first, but the rest of the team, they were too desperate for that soul point, and it ended up costing Rupert's life. Yes, it's only one life, so it's not the worst case scenario, and it's a support. It's not a shutdown, but still, it did cost MCE a little bit of their lead. But now, they are going to be looking possibly towards the top side here onto Sandbad Mad Lad. You will have to recall here. I think Kreze is very much aware that he's trying to get away. Rupert trying to get the recall cancelled. Gane, we have the scanner on. Charm on the Kreze. Needs to be careful. I think there's going to be a free tier 1 for the side of MCE here, Salvatore. Still looking for it. Sirit Rosh getting stolen.
There's going purging already.
Yup.
So yeah, this is still a disengage. They're just trying to go in, try to amp up some tiers here, and here comes an engage.
Paranoia, Magnet Storm as well to be utilized. Sun falling down low. The Cyclone will be able to connect, and Sun goes down. Sadbad Madlad gets taken down as well. It's going to be Psycho, the last remaining player. A double kill for Kreze and a kill for Shogun. Shogun still has the Spirit Rush available. Can look to re-engage. However, I think he's going to be playing a bit more passive, trying to bait out the Counter-Strike. And right now, that's going to be an Atakan for MCE. Again, Ion, you can't be playing away from ADC. You're ADC. And when that happens, they get picked apart.
Yeah, that's the strength here for Iron Global, and they're not banking on it, so they just have to play around their main carry, which is not essentially Mad Lad right now. But there will be a time where Mad Lad is going to shine. But in order to get that safe space and get that strength, you have to put ADC as the front man. He has the damage, he has the mobility, and he has the capabilities and the keys to the city to burst down players like Jars and Shogun. Once those two are down, it's easy to kite Kreze and Nuguri, because that is the nature here of the comp for Iron Global. You have so much disengages, the DPS will most likely talk for you, and the moment that the bruisers are still alive, you have someone like the Ari or even the Nocturne to peel the damage for you. So Iron Global needs to draw up another play here that could put them in a very good spot, because so far MCOM Esports, despite getting denied of the soul point, has been getting so much gold and as well as the Arakan. So that's another amplifying team fight for MCE.
Yeah, it's MCE. They had a little bit of slip up there on that Drake fight, but other than that, they've been looking higher game. And so far, with no objectives up just yet, Baron spawning in a bit over 3 minutes, I'm wondering if Ion Global Academy can look for that pick necessary in order to take their team fight, specifically the pick onto Jars. I'm still looking for that one perfect engage that Ion has. The problem is, I don't think they have it. It's too reliant on this Nocturne Ari to make the play. And if they're unable to land it, it's just too dangerous. And Sun, being aware, will back away here.
Yeah, it's still safe to say that Iron Global still has something intact in trying to go in for the plays. Yes, huge sum of gold here for MCOM Esports, but that won't matter if Iron Global is aiming for an ace or even a three pickup play. Iron Global in this important aspect where MCOM Esports is already establishing a very good mid to late game. Iron Global needs to catch up in the drawing board here for MCOM Esports. I can see some items now being brought here by Ion. Yes, it is good, but then again, the next team fight will determine, will MCOM Esports shed their bounties of the 3 carries that they have? That's going to be a huge opportunity for Ion to call in for the rally and get that comeback angle. But for Iron Global, the continuous mistakes of just overstepping and just overcommitting on a team fight is just pushing them apart compared to MCOM Esports. And now Dragon alive. This will set the tone. Will MCOM Esports most likely contest? Yes, they will. Here comes a pincer maneuver.
Yup, Shogun going for the fight, but he does steal the paranoia. This is available now. The TP coming on forward from Bunny Oni, looking to engage onto the fight. However, objective bounty has been gotten for the side of Ion. They're not going to be contesting it whatsoever, and they just back away for free. Bunny Oni actually gets cancelled on the TP as Nuguri actually looks for the kill here. Does activate the Dominus, but he won't be able to chase, and that just felt like it was given away for the side of Ion.
Yeah, something to look forward to if you're eyeing Global is them being able to deny the Dragons. Huge here for MCOM Esports because MCOM has just been relying on the Arakan now. Bunny Uni out of position.
Oh, Bunny Uni needs to be careful. The Krezek gets the Q onto him as Shogun is also fighting on the bot side. Needs to be careful because Sun is there to support. But again, it just feels like every single time they try to make a play on Ion, they end up losing something in return. However, they were able to deny the soul point at the very least, but now looks like they may lose this top tier 2 turret.
Probably ADC on corner here, but Psycho is right there to save his ADC. But now Krez is still aggressive on that one, so this is a guaranteed tier 2 tower here for MCOM Esports, pushing the boundaries here that they can still go for the counter jungle angles, denying any resources here for Ion Global. So a lot of pressure here for all the side lanes here for MCOM Esports, and that's all you need to know. MCOM can move forward, force a team fight, and they will go away scot-free. Ion Global still needs to be careful though, as the goal lead is still inflating here for MCOM. So the opportunity is no longer presenting itself here for Ion Global because the MCE aggression has now regressed. They're just waiting, banking on the death rushes or even a possible engage here for Bunny Uni. So now MCOM playing the patient game here. Ion Global, I don't know if they are able to move still on the map.
I will say, with them taking tier 2 turrets on the side of MCE, 1, lane prio is in favor of MCE, 2, they have the gold advantage now, and 3, with those 2 factors in, they can go for the Baron Force. And with Nuguri having TP up and Sad Bad Mad Lad also having TP up, they can look to play for this TP play on the top side. Of course, Nuguri taking a lot of damage, so needs to be careful. As looking at it, they're setting up for the vision here, Salvatore.
Yeah. Good signs here for MCOM Esports still being active on those very risky positions of getting picked, but we really can't blame MCOM Esports for the confidence that they have because they have the resources and the management to at least step up into the plate here. Ion Global also, if they're getting 2 dragons, might as well get a Baron there for their 3rd objective of the game, which could put them in a very tough spot because that forcing of team fight could be deadly for them, but at the same time, you are risking yourselves in getting those huge sum of bounties plus a Baron. So that's the best case possible here for Ion Global if they're able to draw that kind of play. So they do have teleports up. You have 2 players that has teleports. So Ion Global is still on focus on going in for the side lanes. ADC is now amping up the gold here, and he does have anti-heal. So that's a huge value here for Shogun and Nuguri. So Ion Global now focus on getting those team fights, which could put Ion Global in a comfortable position.
Hold on, Shogun needs to be careful. He's trying to isolate the 1v1. Does activate the Zhonya's at the very least. He's going to be surrounded. The fear might come on forward, but the Pop Blossom from there. Rupert gets a 3-man Pop Blossom. ADC with the Featherstorm able to back away. Does use the recall. However, doesn't really catch anyone. Kreze with the re-engage with the Cyclone able to knock up 2. It will be the TP on from Nuguri. Trying to get the kill on the Dominus. With the Dominus. But the Magnet Sword comes out trying to delay the engage. Nuguri falling down low. Kreze gets taken down. It's a shutdown. By Mad Lad. However, Shogun needs to be careful. Ion looking for a kill, but the Paranoid comes on forward. Shogun looking for the kill, but the Spirit Rush away. And with that, it's a 1-0 once again. The rest of Ion Global East Academy gets to leave with all their lives in tank in hand, and Krez is the only one to fall.
Stalemate here for MCE as they receive with a tough impasse. Kreze rather with a very good engage, but no follow-up. Rupert got the 3-man Pop Blossom, but the teammates were just so distant that Ion Global got a get-out-of-jail-free card of there. They were bailed out by the lack of presence there by MCOM Esports. So the Baron is still alive, and the dream here for Ion Global to still compete still lies in the balance of how the team fight will break down. MCOM still has that amount of confidence here, and they're having this ADC that is continuously snowballing Keenan. So this has to be a threat here for Ion Global.
They need to be wary of this Saya. I mean, the danger of the fact that she's scaling so freely. Again, main playmaker of Ion. So, the moment that ADC gets free reign over these team fights, they just end up losing every single team fight possible. Or maybe not team fights, but specifically that ADC can easily get a pick with that Nocturne Ahri. The thing is, the main concept as to why they're winning these team fights is because MCE aren't playing their team fights together. And most of the time, they're split apart. And that's exactly what Ion wants. They want to split up MCE, and that's how they're getting these picks. Rupert has amazing engages, but since there's no follow-up, it just doesn't work in their favor.
Still possible here for Iron Global. But they are going to risk it. Dragon for Baron. But I feel like MCE, their damage output is so fast that they will be able to still rotate towards the Baron pit.
Oh no.
There needs to be a delay here, especially from the Silence. And here comes Nuguri. 2v5.
Yep, it's gonna be the engage. It looks like another John is gonna be activated. Spirit Rush was able to get stolen. Dominus was already activated from the side of Nuguri, looking for the kill. However, it's a shutdown on the Shogun. Ends up with the Bomb Blossom. It's a 5-man Bomb Blossom as it's crazy to take down Sun and then knock up the Cyclone of the Sad Bad Man. Now he gets taken down. ADC has no one to peel him as Bunny Unni is the last one to survive. Gets the heals with the Sun in the Sky, but it won't be enough. Has the counter strike available. Looking for the re-jump, but Rupert looking for the engage on forward. Unni able to bounce away, jump away with the ward. Tackle Barbs doesn't land, but Kreze is hunting, looking for the kill, looking for the engage. Counter strike available, looking for the kill to Rupert. He may get it. Rupert with the clone though wheels it out, and it will be able to get the kill. And with that, it's an ace for the side of MCE, only losing 2 players.
Dragon and a 2-for-5 trade, huge for MCOM Esports, but Iron Global still running for the hills. They're still alive in this game at this point because nobody got Baron. That pick towards Sivir was so huge, they were denied of getting a possible Baron take or even an inhibitor. And this team fight got really what they wanted. MCOM Esports, what a huge engage from Rupert. That Pop Blossom denied Psycho and ADC's position just so Kreze would get that power pick. And Bunny Unni with the heroics, not enough here. I feel like he had one leaf strike in order to close the gap to him and Nuguri. That would have been a huge counter strike, but little to no avail towards the Jax. And the fight still continues. There is still a derby on our hands, Keenan. And there is still daylight for Ion Global.
Oh man, Ion just basically got nothing besides 2 kills. They lose Drake and now they're on soul point for MC and they're forcing the Baron. And it will be the Blast Cone gonna be destroyed as well. They have no way to engage. Psycho does not have the smite. It's just gonna be no good. Baron comes on forward, but he's unable to get it. Looking for the engage, but Sun gets taken down. Magnet Storm gets activated by Psycho. Looking for the engage here, but it's not enough. Shogun steals the Magnet Storm as well. And with that, they lose 2 players on the side of Ion. Everything is crumbling on their side. They're unable to sync up, and they're losing their fights because of this. Charm comes on forward. Kreze looking for the engage, but he will just back away. ADC needs to be careful. Shogun, chains available, but it's gonna just be a push here towards the tier 3, it seems.
Yeah, Iron Global doesn't have the ample amount of strength here to defend it. It's a Baron empowered plus Otacon MCE. They have so much willpower for MCE that they can absolutely almost do anything at this point. So they're just waiting for that dragon fight. For the most part, Iron Global should be able to contest this. But for MCE, that's so good. Them being able to force that 5v5 with still Baron up in the air. That's gonna threat Iron Global in order to get a soul point or even cost them in their own lives. And ADC and Matlad has been preserving their own strength for more over than 10 minutes now, not getting picked left and right, trying to play the safe game here and not force anything out of MCE. So yes, it's still an Iron Global possible game, but for MCE, they're eyeing for the most confident push ever just because they're waiting for that 5v5.
Shogun just tried a really ballsy play, dare I say. But yeah, they're waiting for the 5v5. Again, MC's composition super strong in the team fights. The moment Ion steps up too far, it's long gone for them. And they have Baron buff. I think it's enough for the next Drake spawn, if I am correct here with my mathematics here. But if it's not, they'll at least get lane prio enough for them to actually look for the contest on that Drake, or for the take on the Drake for Soul. And that's Chemtech Soul, which honestly, given the fact they have Silas, Wukong, and Renekton, that Chemtech Soul is going to be dangerous.
Absolutely deadly. And that sustain from the Chemtech Soul is something the MCE is looking forward to. Because of the long team fights that they have been dealing for quite a while now, Iron Global doesn't want to get bursted, and same goes for MCOM Esports. But is there anyone that needs the soul here? It's going to be Iron Global. You have 2 carries that is in need of distances. Look at this overzealous of Shogun.
Trying to engage, very courageous on the Sad Bad Mad Lad, but of course you're diving into a tier 3 turret here. That's a very scary position to be in. However, he does have the TP available if he wants to look to regroup with his teammates, and he will be looking for the regroup. They need to be careful on the side of Ion. They can be in for a surprise. As Jars activates the hunt, they're looking for the kill. Paranoid going to be activated by Sun. They're looking for the engage. It will be the front line. It will be the first star coming up. Bomb Blossom to come forward. It's another 4-man Bomb Blossom. It's Zonya is able to get away. However, I think he's gonna end up falling as well. The counter-strike is not enough. The dominance from Nuguri keeping himself strong. And with that, they are 4 down on the side of Ion Global Academy.
Madeline just needs to cut off the way, but this is so huge. And take a look at Rupert.
Rupert.
Out of position, gets picked off by Madeline. And there goes the impasse. They once again caught on a stalemate. MCOM forced a team fight with no minion wave.
Oh, sad bad Madeline kept his team alive here, but that's Chemtech Soul here, Salvatore. I don't know if Ion can turn things around. It's finally a 10k gold lead. 2 10k gold leads in one day here, Salvatore. I don't know what else to say. It's been absolute stomps after stomps. So I'd argue that this game was definitely closer in some regard, but Ion just couldn't seem to catch a grip in the early game, and that cascaded into worse and worse team fights later down the line.
It is far from over. Ion Global still breathing, and they are still most likely punching the air right now because of the continuous mistakes that they have. Fewer out of position players here for Ion Global cannot fix their mistakes because they're seeing a black and white screen, and that's bad. So at least Madlad needs to exit this game with at least a car escorting out of this game, because that's the flowers that they need. It's so tough to see that Ion Global is still struggling despite the strength that they have because of their items. It's now even for both ADC and Jars. 4 item ADCs. So what is Ion taking so long for them to get that 5v5 success? There's so much team fighting prowess for MCOM Esports that Ion Global cannot counteract. They need to get that pick off before they force the team fight.
Oh man, I don't know if Ion can do this anymore. This is just too difficult, and right now Bunny Onni needs to be a bit careful. Tangle Barbs comes out, but Sun, oh, taking a lot of damage. This Baron, I'm sure it's gonna be spawning soon, but ADC, you need to be careful. You're walking up way too much. Featherstorm activated, the Cyclone as well to be utilized. It will be the Paranoid to be utilized as well. It will be the Magic Storm as well. Cyclone coming forward to trying to kill ADC. The Saya will get taken down. Most likely Kreze gets a kill, and Sun ends up falling as well. The burn, Dominus as well from Nuguri. They're getting the double as well. Bunny Onni, last remaining player, and with that, it's the end for him. Zonya's activated, but it won't be enough. The kill on forward. 5 dead on the side of Ion Global Academy, and with that, that should be game end.
And finally, a minion wave accompanying MCOM Esports for their 5-man parade towards the end, destroying the nexus of Ion Global. Ion Global Academy, sayonara, you will be eliminated for Predator League Philippines League of Legends as MCOM Esports celebrates their win with a statement game here on Ting delay, Preme. There's a slight delay with the respawn of the inhibitor, but this is quite guaranteed that MCOM Esports will most likely win.
That was a little bit anticlimactic there with that inhibitor respawn. But with that, MCOM Esports are your victors here in this best of 1. And as you mentioned, it will be Ion Global Academy eliminated from Predator League, and it will be MCOM moving forward here in the group stage.
Yes, had to see here for Ion Global. They were able to delay the game good enough for them to get the items, but it's still not a storybook ending here for Ion Global. From being an underdog, from climbing back to the ranks and still getting those team fights, it's not really that day here for Ion Global. MCOM Esports really tried, man. They tried their patience. They were disciplined enough, them not forcing the team fights anymore. That's a good sign because MCOM Esports just reacting to what is supposedly something optimal for them. And that's a good thing if you're a championship winning roster. So MCOM Esports has been that patient of a team for essentially the start of the game up until the end, and I feel like that was the statement here for MCOM. So they really like to surprise their opponents with some hard-hitting offense in the early, but when time comes that they need to be patient and try to force something out of Ion Global for them to commit a mistake, MCOM just really likes to play the bait.
Yeah, I think MCOM's draft overall was just a safer draft. I mean, there's such a strong top side. Yes, Ion had a decent bot side team composition, but it just wasn't enough to turn things around or shift themselves in their favor. And they never really were able to play around the picks because MCE, MCOM, they just played together so often. Their respo was so quick, so in tune with one another that it was nearly impossible to find that pick necessary for Ion. And MCOM just won every single team fight when they were together. And I think that goes to show that draft alone and of course, how you play out the draft is very much important as to securing that victory. And I think MCOM showed a brilliant display of that example.
And you definitely felt that once I said that there should be some chemistry here for MCOM Esports in order to execute that comp, they definitely delivered that sort of chemistry during the 2 dragon fights that we've seen during the mid to late game. So Iron Global, they individually stood out. Bunny Uni with the heroics there, ADC trying to save his dear life for himself, the peeling here from Psycho. It's still not enough because MCOM Esports is a 5-man working unit. Meanwhile, Iron Global is just trying to save themselves and not in unison. So that's the contrast. That's the difference here. Iron Global still stuck on their own grave. Meanwhile, MCOM Esports still rising up to the occasion and trying to take the ranks here of everyone competing at Predator League. So that's a good sign. That's a good thing here for MCOM. And I really like those numbers, those odds where MCOM Esports really like to play out something quiet, them waiting out for that golden opportunity. And now you see Iron Global trying to climb up the ranks and even things out, but it's still not enough. It just waited. They blasted through the doors here of MCOM Esports trying to force something out of it, but it still wasn't enough. I'm so surprised that Iron Global was able to delay that game so long. It kind of gave us hope that there was something brewing in the Iron Global Esports office.
Yeah, I did have some hope for Ion to a certain degree, especially when they were getting certain picks. When they were able to take that Chemtech Drake, that was like a big factor as to possibly turning the game around. But overall, besides a few slip-ups, once again, similar to the first game we got to watch a while ago between Capybara and Fervent Esports, very similarly enough, it felt like, besides a few slip-ups, it just felt like a huge one-sided victory for both of those teams, with that being Capybara and now MCOM Esports Club. I gotta give huge props to these two teams for giving us a great showing of how to just insanely play out League of Legends on the Summoner's Rift. It was just a beautiful display of teamwork, drafting, and overall individual skill as well to a degree. And I think that's what shone the most here today on day number 2 of the group stage. But of course, Salvatore, we still have so many more days ahead of us, no?
There's still more. There's 1 weekend and 1 day dedicated for semifinals, and after that, a bit of a break, and then we proceed to the grand finals. The creme de la crop here for what's about to come here for Predator League Philippines. I'm so excited because this is such a competition that is destined for teams that you will hear compete in a League of Legends. You have WP Academy for a possible grand finals appearance because they have now advanced into the bracket. Life is Roblox, also the second favorites here, will be having a bit of a detour in their competition. But as it still stands, MCOM Esports will advance, and the competition is gonna get even tougher here, Keenan. So the storylines here being brewed up by the teams will have like some sort of plot change or even a continuous approach, because if it's destiny, it's destiny. And if that team is most likely to break that destiny, then I kind of like that story.
Yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to how this tournament moves on forward. With 2 teams now being eliminated, there's only a few left remaining here in this tournament. And I'm looking forward to how these last remaining teams pull things through here. But of course, before we end off things here, we do still have the highlights of the game. And I gotta say, Salvatore, there were a lot, especially with Rupert's Pop Blossoms. They were insane.
Man, it's something about the Nikos today, Keenan, that are being shed on the spotlight right now. From a while ago, from Yu and now Rupert. There's something about Nico that I'm most likely to see in the next week of competition, and that's going to be the ban of Nikos. That Pop Blossom is so huge, it turned the tide of every team fight we've seen. It took the success right out of the gate here for Iron Global and put MCOM Esports on top. And I feel like we've been putting too much bold statements here for the Decos. Let's put some statements here for the mid laners. Mad Lad and Shogun had the fight of the century. It all boiled down to how well versed they are in getting the Spirit Rush and as well as getting that hijack. So Shogun was so good in team fighting that MCOM Esports really didn't have to do anything. They just waited for Shogun to bait out so many members before they do get an engage. Whereas Iron Global, it's just fighting off. It's like they're trying to force a fight. Kind of felt like not engage, disengage, engage, disengage. It's like a tough relationship here for Iron Global.
I do gotta say, it's always about the back and forth here in these games, and you're seeing here a lot how some of these picks were so important for Iron Global, but these Zhonya's, right, these hourglasses makes it so difficult to like engage onto these targets. And you see here Rupert being such a big factor, and yes, they did have Zhonya's as well, or hourglasses on the side of Ion, but it just wasn't enough. There were so many beautiful plays coming out from this Nico that is Rupert in these team fights, and Nuguri being a huge front line along with Kreze. I think the Nico Wukong is such a powerful duo that it's so hard to counter engage into that. And There was a few slip-ups as well from Ion. I mean, ADC here walking up too much makes him such an easy target for Kreze. And once again, it's just this combination of team fight that MCOM Esports Club have is just really difficult to deal with.
Something difficult indeed, and the difficulty here for Iron Global to garner that comeback story is kind of odd because once they were able to get those items, it kind of felt like they were starting to brew up something. But because of the continuous out of positions, it was just tough to see that Iron Global has been committing that mistake, but they know themselves that they really want that smoke. They really want that strength in them to garner that comeback. But for MCOM Esports, they're just one step ahead. And this is now the scoreboard, ladies and gentlemen. Scoreboard indeed. You have Kreze that was almost flawless. A very good standing here for Kreze. I'm not going to be surprised if he's going to be the MVP. But for Iron Global Academy, we still have to give props. I feel like we need to crown someone a losing side MVP. It's so close to ADC and Sad Bad Mad Lad. What do you think?
Personally, I want to give the MVP to ADC, personally speaking, just because of the amount of impact he had in team fights. But it's hard to say that because most of the time, the impact was from MCOM Esports. Very little did we see from Iron Global Academy in these team fights, and that was a struggle. And can I point out, 10-1 and 17 from Kreze. He has a 90% kill participation. That is ridiculous on a jungler. That is an insanely high number for a jungler. And it's literally 27 out of the 30 kills. If you do the math, that is 90% if I recall correctly, if I do know my math. So that is going to be the MVP most likely for Rupert, actually.
It's Rupert.
Actually, to be honest, it was between Rupert or Kreze in my opinion. So I'm not surprised by this.
It's close, but it kind of felt like there was some more emphasis on what Kreze was doing. Rupert was doing so much of the engage, and that was the good thing here for Rupert. But I'm not aware that he was dealing so much damage as well.
Oh,
that
yeah.
He was able to even up the damage charts up against Kreze that had so much damage output from crushing blows and as well as the cyclones. I'm kind of surprised that Rupert, not building so much AP, still had 19k almost. So yeah, well-deserved MVP honors here for Rupert. And I can't believe we're here saying right now that it is the day of supports and the Nikos.
Yep, and I was talking about kill participation. Rupert had 80% kill participation. So, you know what? It's a toss-up between Kreze and Rupert, and I think Rupert definitely deserves that MVP. What a beautiful showing, as you mentioned, from the Nikos today. I think, as you mentioned, Nico is going to be a staple band now moving on forward here in this tournament. But with that being said, we had two games here today, Salvatore. Capybara versus Fervent Esports, and now we had MCOM Esports Club versus the side of Iron Global Academy. And of course, sadly, we had two defaults here, Salvatore.
Yeah, sadly enough, but the show must go on, and I'm still happy that we still delivered you guys a last bit of action before we do wrap things up here. And that MCOM and Iron Global well deserve of a spot for being match number 4 because that felt like a really good main event. It catapulted to a storyline where MCOM Esports is now trying to go back into the top 4 conversation here. Meanwhile, Iron Global, they still cannot finish the story, which is tough to see. So now Iron Global now eliminated. MCOM Esports still continuing their storyline. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to what's next now, Keenan.
I am looking forward to a lot of things, especially with the bracket that we have in store for us. We're going to be seeing a very interesting Swiss format here between Capybara versus West Point Esports Academy, since they are the two teams that are 2-0 in this tournament. And of course, we have here Fervent Esports versus Life is Roblox and Trilang versus MCOM Esports Club. I am looking forward to these 6 teams here, as it's going to be a banger of a matchup here, as we're going to be seeing a lot of teams battle it out. Of course, whoever wins in the 2-0 will have the first seed, and I'm wondering how that will transpire into the future matchups as well, because seeding is a big factor when it comes to choosing your opponents, and you need to be careful of who you choose, because if the pro scene has taught me anything, it's a big factor as to how you move forward into the grand finals.
Yeah, it kind of sets the tone on what side would you favor on. It kind of really resembles a lot of the advantages here, and you would really want the most advantages because that puts you in a even better odds up against your opponent. So that starting matchup there, the Capybara versus WP Academy is already must watch. It's kind of tough to say that we didn't get to see Life is Roblox and WP Academy, but we will be seeing that in another faith. But it still gave us another opportunity to witness a Capybara versus a matchup against WP Academy, Galata versus Devoured. It's going to be must watch, Mr. Keenan. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps things up here for Predator League Philippines. But before we do make things end here, we would like to give you guys a word about our friends here at Predator with their amazing Predator X39 monitor. That is an amazing sight to see, and I really love that product because they have to master the game with the Predator X39's expansive display. Every war is an epic and every frame is harmony in hertz. Plunge into the abyss, unleash your destructive power, and reshape reality. Shop now at Acer Predator concept stores, authorized resellers, or the Acer online store. I really like that monitor. It's so wide. It kind of feels like I would see the whole Summoner's Rift on that one.
I mean, that does look like a pretty good advantage to have in the Summoner's Rift, or any game for that matter, I'd say. And yes, it has beautiful specs as well. But at that point, Salvatore, I gotta say, it was a beautiful day today. An amazing showcase of League of Legends. I have no other words. Would you please?
Okay, of course. Allow me, no? So, thank you so much, Predator League, for this opportunity. Thank you so much for our dear supporters. Thank you so much for our production team for showcasing a wonderful and smooth and buttery broadcast for you guys today. We'll see you guys next week for more competition here, live only at the page of Predator Gaming. This is Predator League Philippines 2026 League of Legends. My name is Salvatore. He is Abyss. We'll see you guys next week. Goodbye and have a nice day.